Hamilton is one of the greatest musical achievements of the 21st century. It's one of my favorite shows. The music itself is worthy of all the praise it's received. And if you've not heard it, you should. It is stunning. The albums are everywhere. It's on Amazon Prime. Go listen to it. It's great. But the most really true story and the themes it plays with are even more powerful than the music. And that really is saying something. At the heart of those themes is the question of legacy. How one builds a legacy, and why it's important or even should be important. Our main character, Alexander Hamilton, simply wants to build something that will outlive him. He wants to be remembered. He wants to do something meaningful. And the show gives us many reasons why he should be remembered. An orphan immigrant from the Caribbean islands, so not a very far immigrant, to a decorated war hero, to one of the first cabinet members ever, the founder of the U.S. Bank and the U.S. economy. His climb is fast and strong and impressive. He serves as the right-hand man of General George Washington during the Revolutionary War. He's the first Secretary of the Treasury. He's the founder of the New York Post, the Coast Guard, and the Bank of the United States. Hamilton's legacy of achievements is long and frankly unmatched. Looking at his story, I think, might make us think of our own legacies, both as individuals and as a church. What have we built or done that will last or be remembered that made a difference? The problem? The problem is that Alexander Hamilton's legacy is, well, complicated and mixed at best. And the show actually gets a great deal of its poignancy from the ways it doesn't flinch from his complicated portions of life. Hamilton is the amazing founding father who began our form of government, who wrote most of the Federalist Papers. He is the man whose vision of a strong democratic government helped to establish the ideas behind the Constitution. But he's also the one whose ideas about that democratic portion of the government and distrust of the common people made him want to find ways to make the people's votes be a little less powerful so that those who know what they're doing can really run things. That didn't make it musical, but that is history. That's who Hamilton was. He's a man who argued against slavery, and also the man who, trying to preserve his reputation against the charge of economic fraud, wrote an entire booklet, a pamphlet, that he published and shared about an affair he had, cheating on his wife for almost a year. It's a long story. He's a man whose spinal shot is fired into the air, and an apparent dislike of the practice of dueling, and yet also the man who couldn't let go of that particular cultural norm, a norm that eventually kills him. Alexander Hamilton was both of these, was all of this. His legacy is complicated and very, very human. So is ours. Because in many ways, the story of Alexander Hamilton is our story. And not just because he is a founding father, although the placement of this particular show on 4th of July weekend was not an accident. We too, as individuals and as a church, have a mixed legacy. We are all the things we do well, all the things you do well that I'm just beginning to learn about as your pastor. The times we offer care for others, the food we serve for funerals, the support that we give to Bama, the offerings we just talked about for so many worthy causes, the love shown to the many pastors that populate this congregation, the love shown to our community through cards, gifts of outreach, and so much more. but for also all those ways that we fail to live up to God's callings for us. The ways that we don't show love. The people we ignore or simply don't see. The ones whom we miss in the hustle and bustle of life, in the busyness of our everyday. We are both sides of ourselves as individuals and as an institution. We are very, very human. But here's some good news. Hamilton, at least as portrayed by the show, struggles his entire life with what his legacy should be, strives to imagine what it might look like and how to bring it into practice. But Jesus makes ours very clear. Good news to the poor, recovery of sight to the blind, set the captives free, and proclaim to all the year of the Lord's favor. That's what Jesus declares in Luke 4 as his mission, as our mission. And that is meant to be our legacy. That's what we are meant to be doing as followers of Christ. Our lives ought to reflect those words from Luke 4. Reflect the mission that Jesus claims for himself, that the church has claimed ever since. As followers of Jesus, we are called to carry forth his mission here on earth and to make his mission our legacy. When they tell our story, maybe not musical form, we all know, how we live out that call should be, or supposed to be anyway, the main set pieces of our story, the main portions of the narrative. Because that's what it means to be in the church. That's what it means to be followers of Jesus Christ. Do we succeed? Well, sometimes. And sometimes not. Our legacy can be as complicated as those of Alexander Hamilton. We are, after all, very, very human. But if we keep at it, if we keep striving, if we keep plugging away and listen for the Spirit and try to respond to the Spirit, well, the results might surprise us. And on that, let me tell you about the other Hamilton in the show. The reason the show is called Hamilton and not Alexander Hamilton. And that would be Eliza. You see, the legacy of Alexander was mixed, especially in the show. And it was in some ways left unfinished. But as the show comes to an end, his legacy is both redeemed and finalized by his wife. She collects his writings. She helps honor those he loved and cherished. She speaks out against slavery and even establishes the first private orphanage in New York City in his honor and in his name. Eliza becomes Alexander's legacy and her own. And because of her good work, it becomes a legacy to be proud of. The promise of the Gospels, the promise of the Spirit, is that the same can be true for us. If we keep walking with Christ, if we keep striving each and every day to listen to the call that God gives us, that Jesus gives us, we keep listening for that Spirit and working to respond when that call of the Spirit comes, then our legacies, no matter how human, will be ones that bring glory to God. For God will use our best efforts, our attempts to live into what God calls us to do, and bring the kingdom ever closer, bring the kingdom ever more to fruition. Bring the mission of Christ ever more to fulfillment. And that will be our story. So what's a legacy? The show says it this way, that it's planting seeds in the ground you never get to see. And that sounds like good Bible to me. Our legacy? Our legacy is the ways that we love, the ways we care for others, the ways we strive to live out Jesus' mission of good news to all people. The ways that we strive to be people of God every day of our lives. That's our legacy. That's our story. And that is good news.